A long time ago, there was etiquette. Formal rules that governed everything from which fork to use to what topics to discuss in polite company. Or so we've heard. Today, there is no etiquette in this world, and yet etiquette is required. How many messages should it take to set up a meeting? When you start seeing a new therapist, how do you talk about it with your first therapist whom you are still seeing? Welcome to No Etiquette, the podcast where we address modern etiquette questions in a nonsense fashion. I'm Vivian Lee coming to you from Singapore, and joining me on the line is my best friend Sophia Bose in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Hi, Sophia.
Hi, Vivian. How are you?
I hate that question, but I can
I know
tell
you
you
do.
something extremely... well, you can decide who's more no etiquette in this story, but
Okay.
my parents whom I live with were going on vacation, and everything
Mhm.
seemed totally as normal. And so on Thursday evening, I came home from work and they left and went to the airport. Everything seemed
Mhm.
fine. Just they were gone. They were off. And a
Mhm.
couple hours pass. It's nighttime. I'm going to bed. I turn off the lights. I lie down in bed. And I go, where is my blanket? Where, oh, where is my, not small blanket, just your regular, IKEA kind of
Yeah. Mhm.
coverlet comforter. And I just
Mhm.
can't find it anywhere. I look all around my room. I go to sort of like the laundry spots. My mom didn't mention anything about this. I
Uh-huh.
can't find my blanket. I must sleep.
What did
So
you do?
I solved the problem in the quickest way, which is I went to my parents' room and I took their blanket, their huge, nice blanket, also from IKEA, but I put it on my bed and I just go to sleep. And the next day, my parents call me from their vacation. They're
Mhm.
excited. They have things to tell me. And I just go, where is my blanket? Feeling like a complete idiot. Like, how does one misplace one entire blanket? And my mom just goes, oh, didn't you see it? I go, no. And she goes, well, I just put it on the window to sun. I think you should have seen it when you came to your room. I said, I didn't see it. And it was actually late at night by then. I was in bed again. I went to
Mhm.
sleep and I woke up
Mhm.
this morning and I
Mhm.
I checked in the window. I drew the curtains and sure enough there was my blanket.
Oh my goodness. I I want I want to understand. So, how exactly was this blanket suspended from the window?
Well, I have a window ledge that's big enough to put,
Uh-huh.
it's just a blanket. You can kind of scrunch it up. So my mom, what she had done without telling me, I think without remembering, was she thought, I guess it was, they were leaving in their trip. We thought, okay, like let's make sure the house is in
Mhm.
order. Let's
Mhm.
send her blanket. Let's send
Uh-huh.
Vivian's blanket so that she has a
Uh-huh.
nice sun blanket. It was very sweet of her. And
Uh-huh.
I guess she just thought that I would see it. And
Yeah.
nope.
Oh, one doesn't just sun someone's blanket without asking them.
It's not, I think, such a terrible thing to do. Like it's
It's
trivial to
actually
go get
quite
your blanket back
thoughtful.
or something. It's very thoughtful, and it's
It's
not the kind
very
of thing that
thoughtful.
really, it's not like like you have, if my blanket's not sunned exactly right, I can't sleep. Like there's no issue there.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
I think it was more funny that she just sort of neglected to mention it to me, but it like it did make me feel like, who are you, woman in your 30s, lost your blanket? And I think maybe my parents had this parallel conversation. Like, we leave her alone in the house. She lived alone for many years. This we know, but we know now if we leave her alone for one day, she loses her blanket.
I have a question. Do you think they
Go on.
suspected that you had been using their blanket?
I told them right out. I was
Oh.
mad.
Oh,
I
you were
said, they asked
mad.
me sort of like, like I was like, I had to use you. Just took your blanket, and they kind of laughed it off. They weren't too,
Okay, I have
you
another
know.
question.
Yes.
I'm sorry for the
No.
rapid fire questions. Um, so what is their blanket like? Like, what does it smell like, for example? And is it heavier than yours?
It's identical to mine, except it's the double version of the single one.
Oh.
And
Did you
maybe
like
I think
that
theirs is a
better?
little warmer.
Mm.
No, it was too much blanket.
It was too much blanket for Vivian.
It was
Oh my
too much
goodness.
blanket, but honestly, in every other way, it was basically the same. I
Same.
have no complaints about it.
Something in my life I've noticed is that I've always
Mhm.
found other people's blankets to be more comfortable than my own. So every time I visit
Oh.
my sister, she has these like
Oh.
magic blankets. I don't know. I sleep
Mm.
so well with them. And I asked her specifically what brand they were when she brought them. And
Mhm.
I tried to buy the same. And no matter what I did,
Mhm.
I would never, like, I could never replicate her blankets. Like, they're the
I
exact same blanket, but it's not the
Mhm.
same.
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
Um, I fully understand this. I think back to some of the best night's sleep I've ever had in my life,
Mhm.
and one of them was at my friend from college, Josie. We
Mhm.
would go to her parents' house over Thanksgiving for many
Mhm.
years,
Mhm.
and I slept in that house like better than anywhere I have ever slept in my life
Wow.
because it was such a loving, lovely household. They were so sweet to host me and
Oh.
sometimes some other people over Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
Um, they hosted family a lot, so they were like, "All right, like let's go to the closet. We'll get the air mattress. We'll get the sleeping bags." It
Yeah.
was, it was kind of like a very
Yeah,
comfortable
yeah, yeah.
routine. And like they were sleeping bags that like, had been used, comfortably used.
Mm.
Sometimes had, I wouldn't say like a musty smell, but they had been in they've been in the
Yeah.
closet for a while.
Mhm.
So it wasn't anything like you said, like magical about the blanket. Although
Mhm.
I think smells
Mhm.
have a lot to do with it. Maybe like blankets other
Mm.
people use.
Mm.
In a nice way.
Yeah.
Clean.
Yeah, yeah.
But, like, I slept so well in that house, like, better than my own house, my
Wow.
parents' house, like, there was just a lot of love there. I think you can
Yeah.
feel that in objects.
You know,
And, like, coming under someone's care. I think coming under someone's care, ironically
yeah.
taking their blankets so maybe they don't sleep so well. Did you take your sister's
Ah,
actual blankets, or these are just her extra blankets?
no, these are it was her guest room,
Okay,
and
okay.
yeah, but she had a really good setup. To this day, those are the best blankets, even though
I
I
believe
thought
that.
I got the same, but, yeah.
I think a really
Well,
comfortable guest blanket set or something in someone's house that's, nicely maintained, and it's the best. It's better than a hotel blanket. It's better than your own blanket. It's a blanket that
mhm,
someone has gotten ready for you, so that
absolutely.
you could sleep restfully at their house. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, I
Mhm.
I'm grateful that your mother sunned your blanket such that
Mhm.
I could remember a good blanket at my sister's house.
Yeah.
So I have a question, an etiquette question, and it's a little bit about being a guest.
Okay.
Um,
Ooh.
so kind of, I guess, a little bit related to this, but not really. There's no beds involved. Um, so I was at a dinner party the other day,
Mm.
maybe last week or something, and I was there with my husband, and we were so the people that invited us, they live down the street. We don't know
Mhm.
them very well, but
Mm.
they're a little bit more than an acquaintance. They're a friend. We don't know them super well, but we've taken care of their cats. So there's
Mm.
so there's a certain level of comfort, but I think that
Mhm.
this is the first time that we were going to have an actual dinner at their place.
Mm.
And they said it was going to be an intimate gathering, and what we didn't realize is that um by intimate it really was just me, my husband, um two other people, and then a third. So I guess it was fairly intimate. We had never met the other couple, or there was another man there who has family but didn't bring them along. So we hadn't met any of them, but we
Mm.
knew the two neighbors. I feel like I could be saying this in a little bit less complicated way, but in any case,
Gotcha. It was
we're
you and the
sitting
neighbors and
around.
three more people. Yeah.
Yes, good, good. Thank you, Vivian. So we're sitting in this dining table, and it's like set. And I know that we're people in our 30s, and people should be eating dinner at their dining table. But it had been a while since I'd actually sat down and had dinner on a dining table, um, and that's fine. The, the, and there was like
Wait,
this
tell me a little
lovely.
more. What's your usual dinner
Oh, my
setup?
dinner setup. Well, usually
Mhm.
I'm foraging and I'm eating
Mhm.
at my like writing desk, or
Mhm.
on a couch.
Mhm.
or on the floor. I don't know. I mean, I guess I just don't really eat dinner. I mean, I eat dinner. I don't really
Mhm.
know. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're kind of
No.
combining it with other activities a little bit.
Yeah. Or
Mm.
we don't really even eat it. Like
Yeah.
it's just sort of
Mhm.
dinner
Okay.
is
It's
not
not
very real anymore in my life.
okay.
I mean, meals in general, for
But
some
that's
one
good.
reason or the other.
They say that you're supposed to like have your lightest meal should be dinner, right? Like you should start with a big heavy breakfast, you have a smaller
Yeah,
lunch, and your dinner is supposed to be the smallest one.
yeah. I think
That's good.
unwittingly this has happened.
Mhm.
Um, so we're sitting there on this table. It's kind of a potluck, and I think the both of us were feeling really sick, so we actually hadn't brought anything. And the person
Oh.
had insisted that we don't
Mm.
like had very much insisted like you must come and don't bring
Mm.
anything with you.
Okay.
It's fine. We didn't bring anything.
Mhm.
The table had beautiful food on it,
Mm.
and one of the things on this table was spring rolls, and
Ooh.
um, like the kind that's fried, not the summer
Mhm.
rolls, like the actual.
Mhm. Yep.
And like my husband really likes spring rolls, and I like them too. But like when they're deep fried like that, they can get a little bit greasy. So
Mhm.
while I like them, like for me, one is just about good. Like I will eat
Mhm.
one, and
Yep.
that's about it. So so we're eating our food. I'm eating my spring roll. Spring roll is quite greasy. I like it. It's good. I finish it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, like my husband starts tapping on my shoulder, and I turn to him, and he like covertly like hands me his half-eaten like spring roll because he can't finish it. But
Uh-huh.
he's not like he's suspending in air. He's sort of like tapping me, and then he tells me in a whisper, which is I think just loud enough for everyone on the table to hear. And he's like,
Mhm.
"What's inside this?" And I was like, I was like, I don't really know. And then the person who had made this, he was one of the guys at the table, was like, "Oh, it's." And then he proceeded to explain. It
Mhm.
actually had some strange ingredients. It had, I mean, not really strange. It had like tuna inside of it and some other
Oh.
vegetables. And that was my husband's reaction. He was like,
Mm.
"Tuna?" Like
Like,
he
"Ah,
understood
tuna."
immediately when the person said tuna. He was like, "Yes, this is
Hmm.
why it's weird."
Mm.
And he nodded very enthusiastically, and I said,
Mhm.
"Yes, it's delicious. It's great. I had one. It was great." And and then my husband had, when the person had explained what it was, he sort of like
Mhm.
pulled the spring roll back to his plate. But then when he thought that that person was no longer looking, he again tried to put it on my plate. And I didn't want it on my plate because I wouldn't eat it. And so I pulled my plate away. Anyway, all of this is playing out. And my question to you is this. When there's something unexpected in a food and it's inside of the food so that you don't know until you've eaten
Mm.
it, and the person who's
Mm.
made it is sitting directly across you or in a place where they can
Ooh.
see, what is the
Mhm.
best way to handle this situation for all parties
Ooh.
involved?
Wow. Alright. Well, that depends greatly on the outcome, the desired outcome, the interaction, I would say.
Uh-huh.
I have so many thoughts on this, but I think I think first we want to establish what the nature of the unexpected ingredient is.
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
think if it may be it's a little different if it's an allergen, if it's a
Mm.
food you can't eat, if it's um something along those lines.
Mm. Yes.
And it may be, or like a religious dietary, something like that, right? And maybe,
Yeah.
especially in that case, if it's sort of an unexpected food, like,
Mm.
say, I mean, just like say it was pork. Like, there's certain kinds of fried spring rolls that have
Mm.
pork, but it's not that. It's
Yes.
usually the other kind.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so if say it's you can reasonably not expect it to be in there,
Mhm.
and someone put it in there and did or didn't know that you couldn't have pork and did or didn't
Mhm.
say,
Uh-huh.
and then when it comes out, and if you can't eat it, that's a kind of separate
Yeah.
thing. Where I
Yeah.
feel like it's quite all right to say straight up, I'm sorry, I can't eat this or something, and then to leave
Mhm.
it, and maybe it'll make the other person feel a little bad, but it's sort of a reasonable, you're not really, and and then maybe someone else steps up and eats it or doesn't. And I can think of one more situation where maybe that's a little more of an excusable, and in the sense of just very easy to get through
Mhm.
socially.
Mhm.
Maybe if there's something that a child won't eat, and then it can
Mm.
be ingredient, right? It could be a little bit of
Yeah.
parsley, it could be
Yeah, it could be yeah.
tomatoes, it could be almost anything,
Mhm.
and that can be tricky, but also, like, I think everybody can be generally understanding of, like, "Oh,
Mhm.
just we can treat it as a situation when you simply can't eat this thing, and
Yep.
we'll get over it."
Yeah.
Where I think it can be, and this is such a good, interesting etiquette situation, is it's something like it's not a horrible, or not horrible. It's not a, you can't not eat tuna fish.
Mhm.
It maybe something you don't like so much, or maybe something a little stranger, and it's in an unexpected food where you don't expect it to
Mhm.
be. I
Can
think
I
it's kind
also
of where
add
we.
one more thing?
Yeah, yeah, please.
Um, so my husband, when he learned that it was tuna fish, his
Hmm.
immediate reaction was, "Oh, I really don't like fish." That was all he said.
Oh dear.
He
Yeah.
told that person, "I really don't like fish." So anyway, keep going.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
would like to
But
hear.
that's I would say that's a little, I think fish is one of those things that is a big enough category of things that some people don't like, and that you might,
Uh-huh.
you know what it is? It's like, this is when people fight about pizza toppings and somebody's like,
Ah.
pineapple on pizza. And there's enough people who
Mm.
think that's really unpleasant, or anchovies, right? I think it's kind of a
Ah,
polarizing ingredient, and I
I
think it's
see.
generally known. Tuna,
Okay.
not so much. I think tuna's
Mhm.
so palatable to so many people, but it is a
Uh-huh.
fish, and some people really don't like fish, and that
Mhm.
seems in the realm. And I think in this case, just being very specific here, it's so unexpected to find that in a fried spring roll, I think,
I
right?
agree. I mean, I
Yeah.
absolutely agree. Apparently it's I think it's like a Moroccan it's a Moroccan so it's not here's the thing, it's not even a spring roll, it just, like, looks like one. It's actually
Okay.
called something else,
Hmm.
but it looks so much like one, it's made with the same wrapper and, has
Mm.
similar vegetables in it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we've got two ways to approach this.
Mhm.
How does one behave when this happens to one, and how does one
Yes.
behave as the host who serves this?
Yes.
I would think, well, my first thought was, and this was before you told me how it played out, the best way I think is to eat it and then put your napkin over your mouth and spit it into the napkin discreetly.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. That's
Discreetly,
great.
or
Mhm.
to leave the uneaten part discreetly on your plate. Like, maybe you cut it up a little.
Mm.
Maybe secretly slip it onto your spouse's plate. That's a little bit like, then you have to be the one who looks like you didn't eat the
Mhm.
spring roll. It's a little
Mhm,
bit
mhm.
hiding behind someone else.
Yes.
I think he was probably just hoping that you would eat it, and then it would be no more.
Oh my goodness. So wait, Vivian, so did
Uh-huh.
I break an etiquette rule by, because I wasn't very welcoming of this additional piece of spring roll onto my plate, and perhaps the host wouldn't have noticed if I had just sort of taken it.
To eat it and you didn't ask for it.
This is true, I
Unless you
didn't ask
have
for it.
Do you have a and this is just a dynamic. Do you guys regularly eat food for each other?
No, not really.
Yeah. So I think it's, if it's two people who kind of just always,
Mhm.
or it's like, okay, no big deal, a little more of a spring roll. Like, maybe he felt like, surely, Sophia can help me out by eating half a spring roll, but you were full and you didn't
I was quite full.
offer.
No, I did not.
So I don't think you were being very no
Okay.
etiquette to not eat food that you had not requested. It would have, if you had eaten it, that would have been a generous thing of you to do.
Okay. Okay.
But maybe you also don't like tuna fish, right? Or now that you know it's tuna fish, maybe you also don't want to eat it. So that's an
No, 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 it's
extra.
perfectly fine. I was just full.
You're
And
full.
also
Yep.
kind of, like, shocked that I was getting this, like, on my plate.
Yeah. Yeah. In front of people, it does look. Yeah. Because then once he's doing it, it's like I said, right? Some people just do it for each other. So now it
Mhm.
looks like you're the one who's being churlish for not
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
helping or doing your part as
Yes.
requested. But yeah, I think the sort of disguising, like not eating it and sort of minimizing for everyone's discomfort how
Mhm.
much you don't want to eat it seems to be the kindest
Mm.
thing to do. Like I can think of situations where, I've cleaned up after someone's food and you could tell they took a thing and they didn't like it. And maybe you feel a little like, ah, man, if only this had gone to someone who had
Yeah.
liked it.
Yeah.
But you're like, they didn't make a scene of it, right? You just didn't eat it
Yeah.
and didn't say anything and didn't
Yeah.
um, make a deal of it in any way. I think is probably the most like non-confrontational way. And
Okay.
we just let
I
it
like
pass, right? And you don't do
Yeah.
it again next time. And like you don't have to
Yeah.
do that thing where you like throw the drink in the potted plant. You just into the napkin seems like the best. The tricky thing is if it's like nice cloth napkins at someone's house
Uh-huh.
or something. And then you have to do a thing maybe where you put it in the napkin, you smuggle the napkin out. I feel like I've heard of this a lot, where people sneak
Mm.
something into the napkin and then they have to go dispose of it somewhere else. And
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah, in O Caledonia, um, the novel I'm reading by, uh, I'm gonna forget her name, Elspeth something,
Mhm.
but the child has a great, and it's always children, right, who do, because
Yes.
understandably, you've fed a lot of things you don't want to
Yeah.
eat, and she gets this really good system where
Uh-huh.
she rolls up some food into her cloth napkin, and when
Uh-huh.
she gets it from the table, she unrolls it and throws the contents like under a table or something, and
Uh-huh.
either their dog or their mice or something just go and grab it, and
Oh
everyone's
my
happy,
goodness.
and no one's the wiser.
That is the ideal setup.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Thank you, Vivian. I really like that approach. I think in
Are you
the
furnished with napkins, though? Maybe it's difficult if you're not
We had
furnished with
napkins. We
napkins.
we were furnished with napkins. I think that would have been possible. I
Mhm.
think I will relay this, like, this what would you call it? These next steps
Technique.
to my
Yeah,
husband.
next
This
step.
technique
Yeah. Yeah,
for the
like, even
next
if you
time.
don't even have to, like, put it in your mouth and then put it on the I think you could find a way to slip it into the napkin
Yes.
unnoticed.
Unnoticed. Not try to put
Mhm.
it on someone else's plate.
Yep. Out of the
Not
way. If you throw the
repeatedly
napkin
ask
away
for the
yourself,
fish.
you Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't have to
Alright.
comment that you like or don't like fish unless it's really close friends or if it's gonna affect the next time around or something, what you
Mm.
eat thing.
Yes.
Um, but okay, turning to the topic of was it right to serve this
Ah.
as a host? I'm not familiar with this dish. It's tricky if it's a real dish that they love and want to serve to guests. And it is unfortunate that your guest didn't like it, right? This happens.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. This is
And
a
it's
real
kind of
dish.
it's a real dish, yeah.
It's a real dish,
And they
and
evidently they like it and they liked it enough to cook it for you guys, right? So
yeah.
it was well intentioned.
And I think there's a cultural component to it because everyone in that table was Tunisian or Moroccan, and
Okay.
we were not.
Mhm,
So we
mhm.
didn't know that dish.
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
I have one more
Yeah.
personal etiquette question,
Yeah.
also related to food.
Sure.
This is going to be a little bit shorter. There was an event that we were hosting for work,
Mhm.
and it happened to fall on the same exact day that there were mass protests on campus about the Palestine-Israel
Mhm.
conflict.
Mhm.
And I had to order food for this event, and I wasn't quite thinking. And I ordered Zingerman's, and I think Zingerman's is Jewish. It's very, very Jewish. And I was not trying to make any statement.
Mhm.
I just ordered the food.
Mhm.
Um, and
From like kind of just to set some context, like a go-to fancy, well-established catering provider kind of
yeah,
deal.
and they have the little takeaway like dinner baggies. You know,
Mhm.
it's a really
Yeah.
great catering option.
Yeah.
I was kind of late in placing the order, so it was like really convenient. They
Mhm.
deliver,
Mhm.
it is all set up.
Mhm.
Um, And I didn't at all think that there might be any,
Mm.
I wasn't thinking of it as a political thing. It was just food.
Mhm. Mhm.
And as it turned out, nobody thought of it as a political thing. However, I did have a moment where I wondered, is it in a time where I think there's a lot of emotions around this kind of thing?
Mhm.
Was it bad etiquette to have gotten food catered from a place that could potentially have made people uncomfortable?
And this kind of connects both a little bit because I think with the food you guys were served at the dinner party, that's not to say don't serve people the food of your people, right? Because you're
Mm.
just by default afraid that they're not gonna like it or not be familiar to the like that's the whole point of
Yeah.
friendship, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe if it hadn't had the tuna fish or something, like you guys maybe would have eaten it and loved it forever, right? And
Yeah.
then that would have been
Yeah.
forever a great experience.
Yeah.
Um And you guys are kind of like neighbor friends, right? It's not like it was, say, a work thing where maybe one is serving something difficult to eat or with controversial controversial in the
Yeah.
sense of like some people
Yeah.
may not like it, kind
Yeah.
of.
Yeah. 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 Very much
Um,
neighbor friends.
mhm. Yeah, food preferences, man, so tricky. I think in such cases, especially since it's the first time you're getting to know people, I think I've always erred on the side of either cooking something very kind of like widely liked, or
Mm.
like sometimes I'll check with people, and I've had people check in with me, and it may be a little excessive, but
Mm.
I remember one time some friends had me over and they were like, "Are fajitas okay?" And I was like, "I love fajitas." But, I
Ah.
think they just wanted to make sure that there was no dietary or something. I think now it's with dietary restrictions, it's so widespread that a nice thing can be to check in with people or something.
That's a very good point, actually. That maybe it
But
is
it's a
good
lot of
etiquette.
work.
That's
But it's
true.
a lot of work for the host, and maybe sometimes you don't know till the day of, or, why should I
Mm.
have to think that my food is unpalatable to you or so, this we eat this every day,
Mm. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
tricky. And then for the catering question, that's a whole other, I don't know, it's the times we're in. It could be taken, it could be meant.
Well,
I think
I
you
have
I
another.
think you're Oh yeah, go on.
Oh, sorry. I had a tiny addition to this story.
Yeah.
So, I asked the director of the program, uh, whether this was a problem and, should we say something?
Mm.
And his response was, "No, we are not gonna
Mhm.
address it. We're not gonna think, we're not gonna assume anything. We're just not gonna
Mhm.
say anything." And he happened to have just received that day a box of baklava, which, is, I guess it was from a Palestinian restaurant. And so what we did is we actually put the box of baklava next to the Zingerman's packets. And so we thought we were very grateful that that sort of worked out in that way. Um, but yeah, his
Aw.
solution was we just don't bring it up and we
Mhm.
silently keep the baklava next to
Okay.
the Zingerman's packets. So that was what we did.
Aw, that was a nice gesture. I think just the fact alone that both of you were kind of thinking about, will this make anyone uncomfortable,
Mhm.
is a very high etiquette thing to do, right? If
Thank
we think
you.
of etiquette as ways that you can extend yourself on behalf of others to make them feel more comfortable in a social situation, particularly if you are in a
Hmm.
hosting role where you are assuming that responsibility,
Mhm.
I think I would think of erring on the side of wanting your guests to be comfortable is
Mhm.
better than not, right? It's the opposite of saying is sort of saying, and not that your dinner party friends were doing this, but kind of like,
Mhm.
my house, my rules. Like when you come here,
Mm.
like I treat you how I want to treat you, which
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
hopefully well, as I myself
Yeah.
would like to be treated. But
Yeah.
there is that in hospitality, you're supposed to put the other person's needs and wants and preferences ahead of your own, right? Or at
Yeah.
least try to value them as much as you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. I think that's very, um, kind of you, and that makes me feel better about the situation.
I think it would be another matter if someone said something and you would have to address it in some way.
Mhm.
But I would hope that meals are an occasion to come together and that base purpose is achieved through the food in some way.
I agree. I agree.
Sometimes I do think it is amazing to me how much time we have to spend eating and how much I really think, but how much of a social bond that is. It's
Mm,
possible to eat all your food alone, but I mean, even
it
to
is.
get food is kind of a social experience because you're to
Absolutely.
some depend, you're dependent on someone else to help you get it or grow it or procure it or order it for
Mhm.
you. How nice. I mean, what a nice thing you did for
Yeah.
people. And Singerman's, quite nice and fancy. May I ask
Yeah.
what was for dinner?
Oh, yes, it was sandwiches. It was, they have these, they're called Thrifty Theas, and you can essentially yes, so you can get their sandwiches for, like, slightly less than it would be, like, menu price, but
Mm,
it's a more limited menu,
okay.
and it's a sandwich, it's a pickle, and there's a dessert, and there's a fruit. It's actually
Hmm.
quite nice. Um, yeah, and so we had, like, Gemini Rocks the House, which is a mozzarella, basil, tomato sandwich thing, and then we had some
Ooh,
Reubens. It was quite
mm,
good. We had we had a
delish.
couple of vegan sandwiches called soy vey. Good stuff.
Yeah. No, and I think that would be the kind of thing I would do if I were catering a meal or something. Not just from wherever, right? Kind of like a general
Yeah,
spread,
yeah,
your classic, perhaps over time slightly dull lunch options, but
yeah,
dinner, but we'll
yeah,
feed everyone more or less.
yeah.
We have a listener question that may involve eating in groups, may involve eating alone, and maybe we'll have something of that nature as we address this question. But here's a question from Michelle from East Lansing, Michigan, who says,
Mhm.
Dear No Etiquette, I am a mysterious, classy individual who from time to time enjoys indulging in hot dogs. What is the correct way to eat a hot dog?
Oh, Michelle, what a good question. Vivian,
Hmm.
I would need you to answer this because I still have not figured out the best way to eat a hot dog.
The best way to eat a hot dog, your own way of eating a hot dog?
Oh my gosh, that's such a lovely answer. How do
I'm
you eat
I'm
a
really
hot dog?
genuinely asking. Like, I think we have 2 questions here, right? It's sort of like, how do you accessorize a hot dog? And
Ah,
then,
okay, okay.
what is the manner in which you eat a hot
Manner
dog?
in
And
which
I
you eat
like that
it. Okay.
Michelle phrased her question very ambiguously, right? It kind of all of the above.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. Are you
Well,
a ketchup and mustard girl?
am I a ketchup and mustard girl? I am a either no, no, no. I am a one of those, either of those, not both.
Not both, but either.
N Never both. Because if it's both, it's too tart.
It's very tart.
Yes. So it's either ketchup or it's mustard.
How do
You
you
put
decide
down
which
a
one it is?
line. Oh, how do you decide?
Yeah.
Um, well, this has to do with, um, what the mustard or what the ketchup looks like. So, like,
Oh.
if whichever bottle looks more appealing at the moment.
Oh.
You run a line down the hot dog, and then you twist
Okay.
the hot dog in the bun so that it's coated evenly.
I really
And
like the
then
little twisting gesture you're making with your hand that we
yes,
can't see
it's
in an
great.
audio
It's
medium.
great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then it's evenly coated, and then it's not, like, too much liquid, right? Because 'Cause you've only put one of the things,
Uh-huh. And a line.
and then in a line, and then you clamp it firmly shut with both of your hands
Huh?
such that it's, like, smoldered together,
Huh?
and then you just or soldered, yeah, it has to
Yeah.
be tight together, and then you just eat it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you're from what I understand, you're holding it in your hands. One hand,
Correct.
two hands? Yeah.
Both hands.
Both hands. Great. And you've smoldered it together. I like this word. Somehow smolder, I
Correct.
know that's
You
not what it means, but
smolder
that's
together.
that's the feeling of it. You've both
You're
smothered it and
squeezing,
molded.
yeah,
Yeah.
both of your hands so that it's all it doesn't fall out,
Mhm. It can't escape.
cannot escape.
Great. I
And then
never thought I would hear such an answer.
well, how do you eat a hot dog?
Well, I mean, just first, if I may, I've
Uh-huh.
never seen someone rotate the hot dog.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you seen
I don't even
another
believe it.
person have you seen someone else rotate the hot dog within
I
the hot
don't
dog?
watch people eat their hot dogs. I mean, if like if there's a situation in which there's a hot dog, then I'm having a hot dog and I'm eating it. Like I'm
Also,
not
you're
looking.
minding your own hot dog.
I'm
You've
minding my
never
own hot dog.
this is another great question of, like, how rude is it to watch someone else eat? Because I've always felt it as
Um,
quite rude. Like, because you're also always eating. So, to
uh-huh.
be not eating and watching someone else like, some people actually don't even and I think this is justifiable, but some people don't like eating if they're the only person eating because then they feel like they're being watched, and it makes
This
some
is
people
true.
uncomfortable.
I'm one of those people. I do not like to eat if others are not eating.
I have a story about once I went for, like I was gonna say coffee, but we didn't have coffee. I think we went to a bakery with,
Uh-huh.
our friend Adriana from grad school, whom you didn't know very well, but
Mhm.
she had recently broken up with her boyfriend, and
Mhm.
I think I was sort of like, maybe I'll get to know her and see if I can cheer her up a
Yeah.
little, as someone
Yeah.
who doesn't know her very well. But
Yeah. Yeah.
we go to this bakery and we order our things, and I remember she gets some kind of cookie. She gets like a
Uh-huh.
big, maybe like chocolate chip or something cookie.
Uh-huh.
And as we're talking, and she's a little sad, and she starts breaking the cookie into pieces with her hands.
Oh.
And she's breaking it to pieces, and then she's putting it in her mouth. And at the time, I thought, oh my gosh, she's so struck by grief. She's so she's so thoroughly, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
the throes of emotion
Uh-huh.
that she can barely eat. The only way she can eat is by snapping her cookie into pieces. And then at some point, I think I mentioned that to someone else, and they
Uh-huh.
went, "No, but Adriana's just a weird eater. She eats everything that way. It had nothing to do with her emotional state.
Really?
It was the way she ate things."
By the way, that is how I eat cookies.
Do you always break them into little pieces and put them in
Correct.
your mouth?
Yes.
Only cookies or everything?
Cookies,
Okay.
specifically.
I think with her it was everything, I think, because I was not the only person who had noticed, and it wasn't like in your face. It wasn't unpleasant table ma it wasn't gross. It was just noticeable, and now that I'm
Really?
thinking about it, she did get together with someone else, and
Uh-huh.
I always thought that person ate slightly strangely. I never put this together anymore. But he and, no offense to I always wondered if it was because he was from Ireland, and maybe they just hold their cutlery a little differently, but I remember once we went out, maybe we were eating burgers or something, and
Uh-huh.
just the way like in the jazz song, the way you
Uh-huh.
hold your knife, like the way he
Oh,
held his knife was so strange.
how did he hold his knife?
I can't even I think most of the time you have the knife pointed down and it's sort of
Uh-huh.
like held almost as you would like a magic wand, like your pen or your quill or your magic wand, right? You
Okay.
hold it in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of like finger I don't even but he was holding it almost like in his fist in this strange way. And maybe it was just him. And
Oh, I love this.
maybe they were meant to be. And all along, I should have known from the moment I saw him hold his knife that way that the
Oh
two
my
of them would
goodness.
end up a happily together pair.
Oh, I do so love this.
I'm only just putting this together now. This is many years
This
ago.
is great.
How do we get on this with the rotating the hot dog, watching other people? Yeah, I think
Yes.
I'm happy Michelle asked us too because I can't say I've watched. Now I know how I do it, but you're right. I don't think I've watched with great
How do you
attention
do
someone
it?
else eat a hot dog. Okay, here's what I do.
I must know
Uh,
now.
I am both a ketchup and mustard girl. I must have both.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'll in general, I think I like most of the toppings. Like if there's onions, I'll put the onions on,
Mm.
unless but you never have this problem. A hot dog is such a casual food in a casual environment, like the game
Mhm.
or the
Mhm.
the barbecue or something.
Mhm.
Um, so you're not worried about like your breath in close
Yeah.
proximity to
Yeah, yeah,
someone
yeah.
else or something.
Yeah.
Everyone's eating the same thing too. You're
Everyone's
right.
eating the
Like
same thing.
usually
Yeah.
if one person's eating a hot dog, almost everyone is
Right?
eating hot
Yeah.
dogs also. It's one of those
This
foods.
is the thing about hot
Um,
dogs, yeah.
that's the thing about hot dogs, and I do like a hot dog, and I'll usually, if I'm at a barbecue, often prefer a hot dog because it's a little less messy to eat
Mm.
and kind of pre-cooked. So
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
you
yeah.
have like a hot dog is a great food with many advantages. And Michelle, you
Yes.
need feel no shame whatsoever about enjoying indulging in them. They're a great American classic, truly.
I smoldering it
But
together.
yeah, no, whatever you I mean that's maybe that's what makes them a little fun too. You can personalize them and
Yes.
in an easy way that
Uh-huh.
kind of makes them enjoyable. You can have it kind of the way you want. But I'll put ketchup and mustard. I won't do hot sauce. I don't think I associate.
Uh-huh.
It's probably there must be people who I wouldn't put hot sauce on a hot dog.
Uh-huh.
It'd be a hot dog.
Yeah,
That seems a
yeah.
little. I'll just put them on top. I will if it's like a squeezy bottle of ketchup and
Mhm.
mustard, I'll like do
Mhm.
the I feel like that I always thought, like when you watch a movie and they kind of drizzle it in like a Z
Yes.
back and forth
Uh-huh.
zigzag,
Uh-huh.
like I
Uh-huh.
have to do the zigzag if I have
It's
the
a side
bottle.
by like a
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll put them, I'll just put them one on top of the other. I'm not making a nice pattern.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think
yeah.
the reason why the zigzag evolved is so you can put more on. Like most
Got
people,
it.
I think want more, right? Like you want to get more of the condiment on.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, and then I'll just hold it in one hand and eat it.
In one hand?
On one hand.
But what if in one hand? Okay, but, like, usually if there's, like, toppings on it, wouldn't the toppings fall off?
Well, that's what I like about hot dogs, where there isn't, unless it's onions. Maybe with onions,
Like, with onions, yeah.
I'm doing a little like pushing onions with the other hand. Boy, this is really making me think. But I think it's a one hand. And I think I eat sandwiches two-handed, but hot dogs one-handed. And I know this for a fact because there was
Yeah.
once upon a time, the only time I ever went to go see a game at Michigan, I was alone.
Uh-huh.
I went and got the
Uh-huh.
cheaper grad school tickets by
Uh-huh.
myself because I didn't really know anybody yet.
Uh-huh.
And
I
I
so
went and
wish we had gone together, by the way, because I have still
that would
not
have been
ever
a
gone to a
delight.
game.
Oh my gosh, never.
Never.
Never?
Nope, not yet.
Oh
But
my
anyway,
goodness. Yeah,
you were
well, I
saying.
mean, I thought I must go, and it was quite an eye-opening experience. But I went there. I mean, this is how little I knew about going to a game, right?
Uh-huh.
It really is like a whole, like James K. Smith does this really interesting thing where he breaks down the football game as a religious ceremony, and that's entirely what it
Ah,
is. It's like a formational practice, and
wow.
it has all the aspects of a religious ceremony, and that's why people are so attached to it. It really is kind of
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's such an experience if you've never been to one because you're so aware of all the things you don't know. So first I show up, I have
Mm.
like a handbag,
Uh-huh.
and I brought this handbag because it was yellow, and I was like, oh, Michigan colors.
Uh-huh.
And immediately I found out you're actually not supposed to bring a bag. It's a safety thing. I
Oh,
don't know what other people. Yeah, so this is why you have to tailgate. You have to drive your car up, and like your stuff's in your car, I guess, and then you just go empty-handed into the stadium or
like, you
something.
don't have your wallet or your phone or your
Or you hold I don't know. So what I was very lucky, maybe they took pity on me. They let me in
Uh-huh.
with the handbag,
Wow,
even though it
okay.
was maybe a little too big.
Yeah.
Um, but like it wasn't so bad. I think it was like you could
Yeah.
kind of like yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely you could not have gotten in with a backpack. Just they
Uh,
wouldn't have let you in, I
yeah,
think. And
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
you would have to go
Yeah.
check it in a locker or something. Ugh.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was
Oof.
already like, oh, like
Yeah.
you don't know what this
Yeah.
means.
Yeah.
You don't know how to behave here.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then as you're approaching the game, there's all this food. People are tailgating, some of it's
Yeah.
personal, some of it's for sale. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go get a hot dog because that's what you do at a game. And I'm
Yes.
gonna be so smart. I'm gonna get one outside the stadium because I bet if you
Uh-huh.
buy a hot dog inside the stadium, they're gonna charge you more and it's
Uh-huh.
gonna be less good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think I was kind of hungry and they smelled great. And so
Yeah.
I said, two hot dogs. And
Uh-huh.
I'm carrying my two hot dogs.
Oh, wow.
And of course, when I get to the stadium, they say, you can't bring that in here.
No!
Mm hmm. Mm hmm.
So you're
And so what I
standing there
did,
oh, you poor thing.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
I found some, I think I like sat on a wall or something. It was just like, I found somewhere to sit and I ate my two hot dogs
With
at
one
top
hand.
speed, one hand
Uh-huh.
each. That's how I know I
Uh-huh.
can manage a hot dog in a hand.
Yeah.
And then entirely full of hot dog, I went and watched the game. So
That
that's how I
sounds
eat hot dogs.
that's such a story. I love it. Did you enjoy those hot dogs?
I did. I mean, they were great hot dogs. I would have enjoyed them more if I could have eaten them while watching the
Yeah.
game
Yeah, yeah,
at
yeah, yeah,
leisure.
yeah. Y
But they were
you know,
still good hot dogs.
Vivian, this is just making me want to eat hot dogs. I think tomorrow, that's what I'll do.
Mhm.
I think I'll have hot dogs for, like, breakfast or something.
And now you're saying that I don't believe I've ever made a hot dog for myself in my entire life.
No.
I think so. Like the most I like when I was a kid, sometimes I would get a pack of hot dogs and like just like toast regular bread, but we would never buy
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
hot dog buns.
And, like yeah.
And actually, so
Are
I've
they
never
readily
really
available in Singapore? Can you do it if you wanted to?
they're not as readily available as they would be in America.
Okay.
That's true. Like you
Okay,
could I
okay.
don't know if you could expect easily if the I'm
Yeah.
actually not sure. I've never paid that much attention. It's never crossed my mind to buy myself hot dog
Hot
buns
dog.
and make an
Mm.
actual hot dog. It's such a I think that's why they have a slight fun feeling to
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's the thing you get at the movies or the game or
Yeah,
the
yeah, you don't it's
barbecue.
not a responsible, "I will make it at my house" kind of a meal. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of don't have to, but you're gonna get one tomorrow, and then have we covered the bases? Yeah, I don't think that. Do you feel that there is a correct or incorrect way to eat a hot dog that we must advise Michelle about?
I mean, I think I've seen people eat, like chili dogs? Um, so outside of my workplace, there used to be a hot dog cart, and this hot dog cart would come at like 10 a.m. and between 10 to noon, they'd sell hot dogs. And I think sometimes people would be standing around, and if they got a chili dog,
Hmm.
and if they had it with one hand,
Yeah.
then stuff would start spilling. I mean, they
Hmm.
would that whole it was a whole thing. I think
Hmm.
if you're having a chili dog, that is the kind of
Mm.
thing that either requires sitting down and both hands or
Mm.
cutlery. Like, I think that is
Yeah,
the situation in which one does not just one hand a hot dog.
I think that's right. But do you think if there was somebody who had the ability to manage a chili dog single-handedly, would it be rude if they did it in a
I
tidy
don't think you
fashion?
could do anything rudely with a hot dog. Like, I think hot dogs live beyond etiquette, don't you think? Just a little bit?
Oh, because they're such a casual food.
They're
They get a
such a
pass.
casual food,
Mm.
right?
Mhm. Maybe that's it. Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think, when sometimes people are like, "Oh, how could you eat a hot dog that way?" Right? If someone puts something
Yeah, yeah,
funny
yeah.
on it, that's
Yeah.
so besides the point. It's a casual
Yeah.
food that you're meant to eat however you want to eat it. I think that's kind of
Yeah.
right.
I agree with you.
Yeah. 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 Casual food, not meant to enforce your preferences on other people. But I do think,
Yeah.
yeah, like a chili dog is that's a separate, that's almost
Yeah.
that's a thing.
Yeah, yeah. There was a this is just a memory. At my old workplace, there was a
Mhm.
hot dog there's like a hot dog restaurant. Is that a thing? Like,
Hot
it
dog
only yeah, yeah,
restaurant?
yeah, they only sold hot dogs. It's called Ray's Red Hot Dogs or something. Ray's Hot Dogs. It
Mm.
it's an institution. It's been around, like, this town for, I don't know, like, 50 some years,
Uh-huh.
and every time we had, like, a really bad meeting or something, that is where we'd go for lunch. We would go sit there. We would each order, like, 2 or 3 hot dogs each, and would
Mhm.
sit there on the table, eat those hot dogs, and would go back into work like nothing happened.
Okay, I have a question. Was it a
Uh-huh.
comfort food for you guys, or was it a debasing ourselves food? And not that the hot dog is a debased food item, but it's a it's a lower food item nutritionally and dare I say socially.
Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
It's like a casual party children's birthday almost kind of food, right? It's not a
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, I mean, when with this one, like, they made all their hot dogs in-house and whatnot,
Okay. Oh,
but
so they were hot dogs, but they were like kind of nice, like good, like better sausage kind of.
I mean, they were only better in the sense that they were made in the restaurant, but, like, they tasted pretty much the same as
Okay.
any hot dog, that you would and they were the same price. They were like, I don't know,
Oh.
$1.50 or something or
Oh, okay,
$2 or
okay,
whatever.
okay. Sure. And it's like
Um,
a
it was
casual
a
kinda sit
diner. It was
down,
like
like a
it was like a diner,
okay,
but they
okay.
only sold hot dogs.
Gotcha.
Um, it wasn't I think it was comfort food. I think it was like a, "We
Mm.
deserve this."
Mm.
Like, and we were all yeah,
Mhm. That's a gift. I think that
yeah.
hot dog restaurant knew its clientele and knew it had a niche there.
Yep. And then they got torn down to build
Oh.
expensive student housing. It was a travesty.
Oh, no. Did you guys ever find a replacement for the role that
No.
Raised Red Hot Dogs had in your
Nope. It doesn't exist. It's the kind of thing that, is there at that time being, and I don't think it
Yeah.
exists.
So after that, you had nowhere to go with your grief and your kind
No.
of
No, no, we didn't. We had nowhere to go with our grief. I think what we would do is um, we would get pizza from like
mm,
a, I think NYPD pizza or something. We'd just get like greasy pizza,
mm,
but it
okay,
wasn't the
which you
same.
then you would eat it in the office amidst
You have
your
to eat it all as a whole. Yeah, you didn't
Oh,
have yeah, didn't have that diner charm.
well, my other hot dog eating story of hot dogs as a comfort food, I will always have this
Uh-huh.
fond memory of hot dogs,
Uh-huh.
was, many years ago, we took a family vacation to which is the one in Florida? Is that one Disney World? That one's Disney
I'm not
World?
sure.
I
Maybe.
think that one's Disney World.
Hmm.
And it was like a slightly bigger family trip, so, like, my cousin, like, a couple of aunts and uncles,
Hmm.
and, my cousin and I think I was a teenager and she was still, like, a child kind of age,
Uh-huh.
so we were
Uh-huh.
kinda young. This was all many
Uh-huh.
years ago.
Uh-huh.
We were all younger back then,
Yeah, yeah,
but,
yeah.
such ignorant fools. We go to Disney World for the first time all together as a family.
Uh-huh.
And just having no idea, now as an adult and with people having lived in Southern California, people who take Disneyland very seriously, like
Oh, yeah.
people research and not only people who live, but even people like casual, like a family going there once for one family vacation will
Uh-huh.
do research because it's kind of depending on what kind of Disney goer you are,
Uh-huh.
sometimes you wanna know how long you have to stand in line, what are the things to do,
Mm,
what are the
yeah.
characters to see, like, some people really have a powerful agenda, and you
Wow.
have to really kinda plan around if you want, or if you wanna
Yeah, yeah,
save
yeah.
money or this and that, like,
Yeah.
there are a lot of considerations, it turns out.
Sounds very
It's quite a
stressful.
it does, and it's because it's
Yeah.
kind of expensive. It's so
Oh, yeah.
you gotta get the most out of it if you're going,
Yeah. If
especially
you're gonna
with
do it.
your
Mhm.
extended family. But
Yeah.
we were innocent, we were
Uh-huh.
naive, we knew nothing. So we go in unprepared, and the first ride that we happened to take, which
Uh-huh.
looked like good fun to all of us,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
was some kind of, like space flight simulator? Maybe this was
Oh.
in Epcot or something? It was just the
Uh-huh.
first ride, there was no line, it
Uh-huh.
was, like, bright and early on a whatever day,
Uh-huh.
and we get in this ride, and all of us are instantly extremely ill.
Oh, like nauseous?
Yeah, because we should have known because some of us, myself
Mm.
included, are already very prone to all kinds of motion
Yeah,
sickness.
yeah, yeah.
But there was something, and I'm sure there were signs, or maybe now the signs are scarier, but
Mhm.
somehow we didn't know, we were so silly. And so, like, within seconds, all of us are intensely ill.
Oh my gosh.
And I gotta
Oh
say,
my
it was so
goodness.
bad. This is really unfortunate. One of my aunts was so nauseated by this thing that we
Yeah,
put
yeah,
her
yeah.
in fact, several members went to the sick
Uh-huh.
bay. Like, you can
Oh
go
my
to the
gosh.
infirmary, and
Really?
including my dad, who's never usually this sick, but they were all
What?
so sick. My aunt was there the whole day. I think at least my dad got out at some point. Everyone else
Wow.
got out, but my aunt was so sick.
Oh my
She
gosh.
did not do a thing in the park. And so everyone was very ill.
Yeah.
The quickest to recover were me and my youngest cousin, my cousin and my youngest auntie, and we
Uh-huh.
were all okay, I think just by age.
Wow.
And about an hour after the ride, I remember we were fine, And what we
Uh-huh.
did is we went and ate hot dogs because you kind of want that, like, what did you say about the
Oh,
sour kind of like, we were kind of hungry, I think.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And I know
It
this
is
would
very
sound
yeah.
really revolting in some cases, but like a hot dog was exactly what we wanted.
It sounds perfect.
It can be a
It
real
sounds
comfort food. It's fun.
it
You
is
can
such a
really go
comfort
either
food.
way with a hot dog. It can be a real regret or a real comforting
Mhm.
item.
Yeah. Oh, I
So I'll
will
always
for
think of
sure
that.
have a hot dog tomorrow. This is too good.
It'll make you feel good. Wait, okay,
Yeah.
last question. Are you gonna have
Uh-huh.
to, do you have a squeezy ketchup or mustard bottle, or are you gonna have to do something else?
Oh, I'm just gonna have it by itself with the bun.
Plain?
Yes, plain.
With the smoldered bun? Plain with the smoldered
Absolutely.
bun?
Yes, because typically they're quite salty, and so they have
Uh-huh.
I like to, like, really savor their, like, their own taste, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we can say to Michelle that the correct way to eat a hot dog is the way you need to eat a hot dog in that moment.
I think that that is absolutely right.
And with that, thank you so much for asking us that question, Michelle. We at No Etiquette are so happy to hear from our listeners. Please send us your questions at noetiquettepodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And with that, thank you for joining us. See you next time here on No Etiquette. And until then, it is good etiquette to buy yourself a hot dog every now and then, with or without company, and to eat it in a way that pleases you.
Goodbye.